and welcome to the Toffees Victoria Show. I'm your host, Andy, and as always, we've got a full squad tonight. We've got Chris, Nick, and Tim. How are you guys?
Good,
Hey, lads.
And let's just kick it off straight away and talk about that United game. Chris, what were your thoughts on it?
It was a tale of two Evertons, I think. Really, you know, we the first half it could have been anything. We could have been 3-0 down. We could have been 4-0 down. We could have even been worse. You know, we sort of scraped into half time a couple down, and then come out the second half a new team, and James sort of took up. You know, the rub of the mill sort of changed our way, and you know we rode our luck a bit and managed to get back into the game before another goalkeeping blunder put them back in front. And then, as seemed to have happened a few times this year, DCL sort of come to the fore and saved it at the end, and you know snagged us a point when we probably really didn't. We've taken a point away from home against the team who. Realistically, we're sort of in and around where they are in points. So I wouldn't say they're one of our competition, but there's someone good to take a point off. It's always good to get a result against Manchester United. So all in all, a pretty up and down game, but happy with the result, happy with a point on the road, and a few really good performances from roll on to Spurs in the Cup. Tim, what were your thoughts?
It was an interesting game. I thought at half time, oh God, we're going to get battered here. 2-0 down, and I couldn't see where anything was going to come from. I think the DCL chance right on half time gave me a little bit of hope. Wish he could have buried it, but De Gea came out and made himself quite big, and really it was a tale of goalkeeping errors in a lot of ways. A couple of our goals came from keeping errors, and so did theirs, really. I know we'll touch on probably the goalkeepers a little bit later, but I thought Tom Davies had one of his best games for the club in recent memory. Fair enough, he maybe could have closed Bruno Fernandes down a bit quicker for that goal. But if you watch the replay, he's actually sort of trailing, I think it's Greenwood, into the box. So he's actually trying to follow him, and then the ball goes back to Fernandes, and he's almost in two minds about whether to stick with Greenwood or go for Fernandes. And obviously just a quality strike from Fernandes, which arguably if Olsen's on his line, he saves. I watched the replay just tonight before the show, because I thought, sometimes you got to watch it back without all the emotion in there to sort of see what's really going on. And immediately after the game, I thought we definitely jagged a point. Watching the game back, no question, Man United lost possession and looked dangerous. But really, we sort of had the same amount of chances created. There was one early in the second half where Richie was played through after DCL sort of barged over Harry Maguire, who lied on the ground looking for a free kick that he didn't get. Richie blasted it wide, probably should have done better with that. But yeah, all in all, I mean, I think a point's good. I don't think we deserve to win. But a point, and particularly in the fashion it happened, the last kick of the game. Always good. I know a lot of people in our supporters group had confessed to switching off before that last kick of the game, and were quite surprised to come back later and find out it was 3-3. So certainly my Sunday got off to a miserable start, and then it got better around the 95th minute. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a point gained. I think judging by, and I've got a confession to make, I slept through the game. I didn't wake up for it. So I didn't watch the game in real time. So I think I woke up at half time after a night out and saw we were 2-0 and kind of didn't make the effort. Obviously, it was regrettable in the end that didn't happen. But obviously, I've watched it since. I definitely think it's a point gained. United absolutely bossed us in that first half, even though we had that chance by Calvert-Lewin at the end, who probably should have scored. It was a great take, and but I think that's just missing from Calvert-Lewin's game. Is those taking him from a 10 to a 15 goal a season striker up to a 20-25 goal a season striker, is those chances in particular. But anyway, I think I'm always a little bit frustrated when we go to Old Trafford and Stamford Bridge and Anfield and all these places and fail to win. I think it's been too long on our record that these grounds are pretty poor. But yeah, having gone 2-0 down and dealt with what we did, I think it was definitely a point gained. I thought the midfielders were a lot better. Andre Gomez and Tom Davies in particular was much improved. Andre Gomez looked a lot more composed on the ball, like nice little pirouettes every now and then, and looks to be playing with a bit more confidence. I think with him, he was never going to be the same player for the next year after that leg break. And I think it's taken that long for him really to get back, because even his cameos off the bench when he has been coming have looked much improved. And I thought during the game he was probably one of our better players. I think obviously getting an equaliser in the 95th minute away at Old Trafford is always a bonus. And I thought, that Calvert-Lewin poached the goal well, and reasonably happy. Andy, what about you?
Yeah, no, also pretty reasonably quite happy. I watched it as it was happening, and a bit of a definitely a roller coaster of emotions in that second half. To like, as soon as James put that in to make it 2-2, I was just so happy and just pleased, but also like, where was this in the first half? Like, where was their commitment? But also like, it's just good to see the players really fighting for it. And bit of a I don't know, poor keeping, but also like marking with their third goal, I would say, with their player getting the ball, getting a chance.
McTominay.
Yeah, and then Olsen slip. But yeah, no, I just think that it was just really good to see them fight back for it, and then King coming on and just getting a foul, just getting us up there to see what happens.
And that came as a result of him sort of directly running at his opposing defender, which I think I mentioned is something that we've been missing.
That's right, yeah. And then just the quality ball of Digne, and then King getting the flick, and then DCL just he can do no wrong.
I think a couple of key sort of moments that happened there as well. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a lot of pictures floating around of how United were obviously trying to keep a high line, and Harry Maguire was the deepest. Yeah. If you actually watch that back, the reason he's the deepest is because Olsen pushes him as the free kick is coming in. So he's actually pushed him to make him the deepest defender, which was probably the best thing Olsen did all game, to be fair. And then I think Ben Godfrey just enhancing his reputation as well by turning around and telling all the United boys to F off. They're all celebrating the drawing goal. I thought that was very good.
Was not very happy with that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of their fan base were not happy with that from those watch-along videos.
I know the false outrage of it all. I mean, a player swears on the football pitch. It's ridiculous. But anyway.
My goodness! But fantastic
I think Godfrey's
stuff.
Getting better week on week.
Definitely.
Yeah. He is Everton through and through. He fights. He comes on. He's not afraid to scrap. He's not afraid to get in players' faces, and to show that sort of passion at the end. They must have been a lot of chat, because he went straight for two players. He went for Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire and give it the big and straight away. So I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and he's winning more and more fans every week. I think we love him as Evertonians.
Oh, definitely.
Future captain, maybe?
Definitely.
Future captain, potentially?
I think
possibly, yeah.
He definitely has the quality.
I mean,
to be a leader. He's already a leader on the pitch. You can see during the game, some of the things, the way he's directing traffic, yelling at players. So I think definite future quality. And I'd actually go as far to say he's actually jumped in front of Mason Holgate, in my opinion.
I was going to say,
Holgate was at the end of last year. So I would, in my opinion, Godfrey's gone past him at the moment.
Well, it's funny, for all the disappointment on missing out on Gabriel and him going to Arsenal. Really, Godfrey looks, I'd have to say at the moment, the better option, and looks a snip for 22, 25 million as well.
Yeah, for sure.
What looked almost like a panic buy was sort of the window closing and us needing as another central defender has turned into a really shrewd piece of business, because let's not forget he's only still 22, I think. So
young.
Now, Tim,
multiple positions as well.
That's
can
right. Yeah.
play it probably at a push, either fullback position and obviously a centre back. And there's even talks about him being potentially a central midfielder. But
yeah, because I think he played there in his younger days as a defensive mid. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely good buy.
Now, Tim, you mentioned Tom Davis playing a great game. Who was everyone's man in the match? Nick.
I'm going to give it to Andre Gomez because I'm very happy that he's doing better, and I think he's taken a lot of stick. Some of it deserved, and some of it I think has been undeserved and quite understanding by a lot of our fans. I think anyone that's suffered a double leg break is never going to be the same player. Maybe physically, but mentally and psychologically, it takes a hell of a lot out of you. And it took Coleman a while to come back. I don't think Brian Oviedo ever came back from it.
Yeah, true.
And
God, how many of our players have had bloody double leg breaks?
Yeah,
Balassi
as well. I mean, don't get me wrong,
James McCarthy as well. Remember
James
when
McCarthy? That has a serious injury. So I think we should start to give credit to Andre Gomez and
maybe buy some players who drink more milk. Cheapers. That's a lot of leg breaks from one club.
So Andre Gomez.
Nice one, Chris.
I'm actually going to say Tom Davies. I think he had like Tim said, probably one of his better games he's played for us in the last couple of years. He has been on the improve, in my opinion, this season, especially of late. Filling in while Allen's not been there. I think his closing down was generally pretty good. Possibly could have done better for the Fernandez goal, but so could Olsen in terms of being on his line, possibly. Who are you going to blame there? Other than that, I think, his passing was pretty good, and he just got stuck in. He wasn't overly amazing. He didn't do anything overly amazing. He just did his job, got stuck in, and took a few of their players out of the game here and there. So I'd have to say Tom Davies. But, I think realistically, that whole midfield three of Davies, Gomez, and Decore were brilliant together, and they worked really, really. Probably given man of the match to either of any of those three.
Fair
enough. But Nick, I completely forgot about Gomez, but you're right, it was a very good performance. But I'll stick with Davies. I thought that was probably his best performance in about 12 months in an Everton shirt. So what about you, Andy?
I'm the same. I think Decore got it officially with his assist and goal, but just that pass to DCL for the first goal. And just his overall commitment. Okay, Davis made an error, but when you got someone who can do things with the ball with the quality that Fernandez can do,
that's right. He was probably too nervous to run at him and fully close him down.
Yeah,
in case he gets skinned.
And I think he thought he was going to, go to his right side, but
which is where Greenwood was, who was Davies had chased into the box, and
That's right, yeah. But all credit. The team's doing well, even if we're not playing together well. I think there's some really good individual performances throughout the squad. And with that, let's get to talk about the goalkeeping issue. Tim, I was witness to a lot of Pickford and Olsen chat between you on the socials. So what's going on?
Yeah, obviously, being an Everton fan, I engage in quite a few fan forums and listen to quite a few podcasts and whatnot. And I think for several weeks now, on the back of 4 games, people have been, definitely some fans in certain forums have been crying out for Olsen and just saying he's definitely better than Pickford and all that sort of thing. And I've been sort of coming back and saying, well, how can you say that on the basis of 4 or 5 games? And I think I brought it up last week in our show as well, that when we signed him, I did a bit of research on him because I didn't know anything about him. And it all sounded very familiar in the way that he had a very good World Cup, went to Roma, and then was found to have a few mistakes in his game that kept him on the bench there. Actually, I read a story just today that he wants to stay permanently and Ancelotti wants to sign him permanently, which I'm not 100% sold on.
He can be our number 2, can't he?
Yeah, well, look, here's my question. I'll put it out to you guys, and I'll come back with what I think at the end. But, let's say Pickford's fully fit for this tough run of games we've got coming up in the FA Cup tie with Tottenham in, 12 hours. then Fulham, and then Man City a couple of days after that. If Pickford's fit, who would you prefer to start in goals? I'll start with you, Andy.
So yeah, if Pickford's fit, I probably would still play Olsen.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Chris?
I'm Pickford all the way. I actually think Olsen is a poor man's Pickford. He can't kick. He's only good on one side. Pickford's good on both. And I'm going to keep defending week in, week out anyone who says that Olsen is a better keeper than Pickford, because he's not. And it's actually really, really annoying me to the point where I've stayed off Everton social media this week, because
Yeah, it has been pretty crazy.
Everybody loves to hate Pickford for everything he does. Pickford could save 5 penalties in a game and they would still hate on him. Pickford could score 5 goals and win us a game and everyone would still hate on him. And to be honest, I'm over it. So, you know, we have 2 keepers in our squad. Ancelotti's come out publicly and said Pickford is number 1. If Pickford's fit, Pickford plays every single game. And to be honest, I'd actually chuck Virginia in over Olsen, because he can at least kick. Olsen cannot. And if anybody wants to defend Olsen, go for it. But he was poor in our cup games. He made a few mistakes there. He finally got to play against a good Premier League team, and he made 2 mistakes. And
he was good in the Leeds game, though.
Sorry?
He was good in the Leeds game. He made that double save.
You can't deny that triple save in the Leeds game.
The triple save was like pretty...
That was good.
So you all remember his triple save.
The one, yeah.
Nobody will remember the save that Pickford made to win us the game at Chelsea. Everyone forgets that very quickly. So if you want to play the game like that, then you have to do exactly the same for both.
Definitely, yeah.
Pickford every day of the week for me. Olsen is trash.
Nick, can you?
Well, I'm going to try and bring it back to the middle ground where I can. I think that's probably where the truth lies. I think
it's a very strong statement.
I think anybody who says that Olsen is a better goalkeeper through and through than Jordan Pickford is inherently wrong. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that Olsen is a better goalkeeper than Jordan Pickford. I think that Olsen was brought in as a second choice keeper because Ancelotti didn't feel that Virginia or Losel were pushing Pickford hard enough, and Pickford was very secure in his role. So I don't think Olsen was bought as a better keeper or a better option. I think he was bought as a stable second choice to at least make Pickford think and try and iron out some of the errors in his game. I think Jordan Pickford, is a great shot stopper, and is good distribution and things like that. However, I think we are forgetting that pretty much every game that he's played this season, he's made a glaring error or 2, which have resulted in a fair share of goals. I know he saved us on other occasions. I completely understand that. But he has made those glaring errors. So I wouldn't mind, and I've said this from the get-go, I wouldn't mind Olsen just taking the number 1 for 4 to 5 games. I don't think him making the 1 or 2 mistakes against Man United warrants him necessarily being taken straight out. I think that would defeat the purpose. It shows to Pickford that he's still safe in his position and doesn't push him any further. I think we're also forgetting that Olsen's been reasonably solid over the last few games he has played. And as I say, I know Pickford's injured at the moment, but even if he wasn't, I'd like to see him take 4 or 5 games out and just give Olsen a shot and see where it goes. Only because I think that Pickford is our number 1 long term. And I think that Pickford is the best keeper out of all the keepers that we've got. And I want to see him improve. I don't want to see him keep making the same mistakes week in, week out. And I think that with Olsen is a decent backup goalkeeper. But with backup goalkeepers, they've got to be ready to step in when the number 1's making mistakes. And I think that was happening. So look, that's my take on it. I think Pickford is absolutely our best goalie, 100%.
Pretty well-rounded view from a regular Pickford fumer.
No, and you know what? I have fumed at Pickford a few times, and that's because the way that it might be a bit sort of black and white, but the way that I see goalkeepers, they make good saves. That's their job. They make good saves. Okay, some of them are worldies and well beyond expectations. I get that, but they make good saves. That's good. When they make mistakes that cost goals on a weekly basis, something's got to happen there. And I'm not saying it wasn't just one time and then he's out. It was week after week after week after week, and deserved to be dropped, in my opinion. And I think when you drop a goalkeeper for the second, you've got to stick with that second choice keeper for a few games in a row, just to see if you get any improvement, and also give your first goalkeeper a kick up the arse. And I think that's why Olsen was brought in as a decent, if not spectacular, second choice goalkeeper. And it's a squad game, so let's use it. But longer term, I fully agree. Pickford's number one. I think anyone that says Olsen's a better goalkeeper, as in ability-wise, is probably barking up the wrong tree. Hopefully, that explain my opinion on that.
That was good. It was good. And I mean, I agree with sort of both of you in a way. I thought, as I mentioned, I think last week, I hadn't seen much of Olsen because I for some reason, hadn't watched really live any of the games that he'd kept in thus far. And I was reasonably impressed with him at Leeds. Certainly his shot-stopping ability, but I think I mentioned then as well that, his goal kicking left a little bit to be desired. And I know that keepers are primarily there to stop shots, and their distribution should be like sort of a secondary thing that you think about. But when he was kicking it sometimes and it was going higher than it was long and landing just inside our own half, what he's doing there is just putting immediate pressure back on us, which I didn't like. Now, it didn't affect us in the Leeds game. Now we go to the United game where, okay, arguably, it's not black and white. Should he have been on his line for the Fernandes shot? If he was on his line, does he save it? Probably. So there's an error. The header, obviously, his legs slipped. So can you blame him for that? Because his foot went out from under him when he was trying to dive across. Maybe, maybe not. There was also a few kicks that he did that, again, put the team immediately under pressure. And one that I remember in the first half where the ball was going wide, and he almost went to grab it, but instead of grabbing it, he thought he couldn't catch it, so he just palmed it out for a corner, even though it was already going out for a goal kick. So he has errors in his game too. Now, granted, they didn't all result in goals. But yeah, I agree with Nick as well that I think Pickford is our long-term number one. I think Pickford is a better keeper, not just with distribution, but with shot stopping as well. And I think people are very quick to, and I guess this was a point I was making on the social media and some of those fan forums, was that week after week, people were jumping on Pickford and really, hammering him. And I'm not saying that it was entirely undeserved, because he has made some errors. But Olsen made some errors this week, and it was like crickets. You know what I mean? And I thought, well, come on, if you're going to be fair, if you're going to be unbiased, you really have to. I mean, look.
The only thing I would say there, sorry, Tim, just quickly. The only thing I'd say in their defence, with the whole staying silent on the Olsen thing, is that this was one game. I think he's been reasonably solid for the games that he has played. Whereas Pickford, I think the frustration, or the amount of frustration, was a culmination.
It's building over time.
So I think if anyone had fumed too much at Olsen, it probably would have been disproportionate to how he's performed in the games that he has played. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, potentially, you're right. But I sort of look at that the opposite way, in that it's such a small sample size. If you were to do it on percentages, so he's had one game where he's made a few errors out of 6, whereas Pickford's probably had, say 10 out of 60, just as a random number, for example. So as a percentage-wise, they probably made the same number of errors, if you know what I mean. But yeah, anyway, if you ask me who should start this week, I would say I want Pickford back in as soon as possible. But I also do understand your viewpoint, Nick, of, maybe a few weeks out would be good for him, regardless of whether he's injured or not. But to be perfectly honest, if I'm sitting there watching a game and I look at the lineup, I'm not going to feel completely comfortable seeing either of their names in the goals, because we know they both have errors in their game, which I think is maybe something we need to address in the upcoming transfer window, to be honest. Maybe neither of them are good enough.
We all know Pickford. With Pickford, he's got a lot going mentally. He's got a lot of, he's had issues when he's been out and he gets terrorised by fans and things. So in the last 3 months since the beginning of the season, Pickford has been seeing a clinical psychologist that has been working on his game. And Carlo even come out in last week's press conference and said, he's improving. And the mental side of things, which in my honest, where Pickford lacks, is improving on. So, I get what you're saying, Nick, keep him out for a few weeks, but what's that going to do to the bloke? He's going to come back in after 3 or 4 games or 5 weeks, whatever it may be. And he's going to think, well, hang on, if I make a mistake here, I haven't played in a month because I've been injured and then missed games. If I make a mistake, I'm out and I'm back to square one again. You always always should be playing your best keeper, in my opinion, and he is our best keeper. So he should be playing, and Olsen didn't have the greatest game the other day. So if we're picking on form and players, that you had a poor game, well then Pickford goes in if he's fit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying I've got the answer. I just think that you pick players on form, and I think Pickford had longevity of poor form. Olsen's had relatively okay form, apart from one game. So I think that you do sort of stick with some weeks. But yeah, like I don't think it's an exact science. And yeah, I completely agree that Pickford is a much better goalie than Olsen.
And touching on the mental aspect of things too, I think that's the other thing that causes a bit of division with Pickford among the fans. When Olsen let that third goal in and, his foot slipped out from under him, he sort of stood there head down and shook his head and was like, oh, whereas if that's Pickford, he sort of laughs or jokes about it. And I think that causes a lot of fans to think that he's not taking it seriously. Yeah. But personally, I don't see either reaction as incorrect, because there's sort of consequences to both in a way. So for Pickford's reaction of having a laugh or, oh, God, it's sort of like, okay, he knows he's made an error, but he's just trying to put it behind him and not let it affect him for the rest of the game. Whereas for Olsen, I get a bit worried that, oh, look, now his head's dropped and it's going to affect him for the rest of the game. So I don't think either reaction necessarily speaks to the psyche of the player and how much they care or how much effort they're willing to put in. But I think Pickford's reactions to some of his errors have put a lot of fans offside, and that's maybe where a bit more of the fume comes from towards Pickford as well.
It's so up for debate whether it's a nervous giggle or it's a I don't care, whatever. I'm
I'm too big for my boots sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've probably said it on record that I think it's that I'm too big for my boots thing. But
yes,
I don't know. Yeah. I go back and forth with it. All I know is that having been there and seen it in person and sat behind his goal in person and seen him laugh when he's conceded, it is
infuriating.
It's absolutely infuriating. Yeah. And maybe there is the rabid football fan that doesn't really show understanding, because footballers are humans at the end of the day, and maybe that's me being a bit not as kind to him as maybe I would be in everyday life. But it is infuriating. And to be honest, if a goalie makes mistakes, I'd much rather visually see him go off and be visually annoyed. That doesn't mean that either reaction is right or wrong. It's just my preference.
Yeah, definitely. So I think what did we end up with there? 2 for Olsen and 2 for Pickford. So we've solved nothing.
Virginia.
If we were tasked with solving the world's problems, we'd be in trouble.
Did you guys think that, obviously the third goal was ridiculous, and although I think it's a foot slip, but with Fernandez's goal, I'd just like to point out that whilst it was a great strike, I don't think his position was that bad, but I think you've got to be more intelligent depending on who the player is that's got the ball at your feet, and I think their feet. And I think if anyone with any intelligence was in goal, Bruno Fernandes has got the ball. He can do something pretty special. So get on your line.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he, because I watched a replay on today, as I said, and they showed the footage from behind the goal. And to be fair to Olsen, I don't think, because of the way Fernandes curls it, I don't think he sees it until very late. And then it was too late for him to backpedal onto his line. Like, he doesn't see it until it's already, in the box, if you know what I mean. It's already well left Fernandez's foot. And then he's too late to get back. But again, if he was on his line, it probably just comfortably floats to him, even if he sees it late. Because it wasn't really hit with venom, was it?
No, it was a dipper. But then again, if he was on his line, would Fernandes have taken that shot? He might have put it in the corner somewhere. So
true.
It's all hard.
Yeah, it's all what ifs and maybes, but yeah. Well, I think Chris mentioned that Jordan's still injured, so I guess we'll see a bit more of Olsen tomorrow morning.
Yeah, Carlo's press conference yesterday said that Jordan and late fitness tests, so I probably think that means that both of them won't play, especially considering we've got. I know the cup is important, but we've got Fulham on the weekend, and then we've got City next week, which is one of our catch-up games. So the games.
It's really nice of the Premier League to shoehorn that in between a cup tie and a game against Liverpool.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Thank you, FA.
Yeah.
With the games coming fast, I think squad rotation is probably going to be heavy for the next week and a half or so. I think probably against Fulham, there could be a lot of second stringers getting a game in, I would think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. With that, should we have a halftime break or continue on?
Yeah, we can just push on and maybe do the Tottenham Fulham game.
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty, let's carry on and talk about the FA Cup game against Spurs. I'll start us off. I think he might possibly, besides the players you've mentioned that are sort of on a bit of a late fitness test, possibly, the same team against United, apart from, James and stuff. I think possibly King could start. I think that could be something. Yeah, and I know I'm feeling confident. Like I know our home record hasn't been the best, but in the cup games it's been really good. So yeah, and no, I feel good. I reckon we'll get a nice 2-1 victory and move on to the next round. Nick.
Yeah, probably a little bit less confident now. Kane is back. Of course, he was rushed back to fitness and scored a goal. So it's classic. Tottenham are a good side, and I think results haven't really gone their way over the last few weeks. So I think they're due a performance and they're due to give us a hard game, and they've got some really good players that can hurt us. So yeah, but having said that, although home form hasn't been kind to us over the last few weeks, I think that always at Goodison, with fans or not, we've got a shot. And I'm going to go positive with this one. I think we'll beat them 3-1.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Who to next, Nick?
Oh, Tim, let's go to you.
Tim.
Yeah, look, in terms of personnel, I think I'd be happy with the same 11 that started, albeit if James doesn't play it. And in a way, I'd almost prefer that he didn't, because I don't think it worked for us in the first half against Man United, having basically no right winger.
Yeah.
Or Decore was almost playing there as a quasi right winger. So if James isn't fit, I'd say just put Iwobi in to play on the right. Definitely keep that midfield three, I think, of Decore, Gomez and Davis, because I think they played really well together. I think Godfrey definitely has to stay in centre back. Maybe a bit harsh on Mick Keane, but he might go out for Mina. And I don't think Holgate had an outstanding game against United either. So whether or not maybe Keane and Mina start and Godfrey goes out to right back, or he may even, if James is out, he may even go back to that three at the back and play Iwobi as a right wing back again, with Digne as a left wing back. And that might be where Josh King comes into it, Andy, maybe two up top with Albert Lewin and Josh King, because, Richarlison's been a bit off the boil the last few weeks as well.
Yeah.
So he might be due for a spell. So you'd have, two up front, the same midfield three, and Digne and Iwobi providing the width. And that would, but I mean, it's a tough one to pick, because the last few games I've watched of Tottenham, obviously they're a Mourinho team, so they're not going to come and sort of all out attack us. And they very much play on the counter attack like we have been. And we struggle to break teams down like that, particularly at home. So I'm not as confident as either Nick or Andy, really. I'm leaning. Look, my heart says let's get a win, but my head says, look, it's probably a draw, leading to extra time, maybe. But I'm hopefully definitely happy to be proven wrong. Chris.
So I think it's a cup game. It's a vital cup game. We're after a trophy. I think Carlo's going to play our best team possible. I also think he'll probably fall back a bit on what happened in the first game against Spurs, albeit, it's quite a long time ago. But like you said, Tim, it's a Mourinho team. They're happy to sit off and let us have the ball, which in that first game, James thrived. He dominated the game. We just continually gave him the ball and he whipped it around left, right and centre. And, we could see the creativity we had there. So I think if fit, James will play, but if not, I think Iwobi probably takes that spot. I think at the back, I reckon he'll play Coleman. Coleman was pretty good against Son in the.
Yeah, he was too. Yeah.
I know he's a bit old. He has been out quite a bit, so I think Coleman will play with that task of keeping Son quiet. And I think he'll play Mina and Keane at the back. I think probably together they've been our most solid partnership. And, Mina's been really, really good of late against the bigger forwards. So
That's
Harry
true.
Kane,
Yeah.
you know what he's like. So I think Mina probably, horses for courses, that's the best for him. So I think that matchup works. All in all, I think it really depends on which Spurs team rock up. I watched their game the other night against West Brom. Harry Kane hit the post within about 7 minutes of the game. They dominated and they just couldn't score. And then second half, they scored 2 goals in 2 minutes, sort of on the counter. So,
yeah,
I think we're gonna have a lot of the ball, and they're going to be letting us, sit back, and it's going to be up to us to be able to create things. So, if Hummers is fit of any kind, even if it's 20 minutes off the bench, I would play it, because I think with Fulham coming up on the weekend, there's your opportunity to rest players like Richarlison can rest for King. King gets another half an hour under his belt in this cup game. He's going to be a bit fitter. He can play more in the Fulham game. You can then swap up the defence in that Fulham game, because I think realistically we should be beating Fulham at home in the league. The cup is very, very important, so we need to go in with a full strength team. With it being cup football, who really knows? But I could see it being a dire game. Them just letting us have the ball all day, getting to extra time, no real opportunities in it, just going to the lottery that is penalties. And to be honest, I think Mourinho taking that team with. I hope not as well, but Mourinho.
My heart won't handle it, Chris. So you'll have to check in with me regularly on the messages in case I've died.
I understand it. Spurs have still got a lot of football to play.
Yeah.
That they're in Europa League and everything. So I think if Mourinho gets the penalties and they were to lose on penalties, he wouldn't really be too upset. But if we were to get to penalties and lose, we would be pretty upset. So I think it potentially will get all the way to penalties. I hope not. I hope we come out like we did in that first game of the season and sort of blow them off the park, but score more goals than we did in that first game. But, Goodison, I know it is Goodison, but we haven't played the best there of late. So we'll see. But, I'm quietly confident that we get through to the next round. How we do it, I'm not really fussed. I just want to get through to the next round and hopefully get a run at it and see what can happen, because, the way the season is, anything can happen. Everyone's beating, except for Man City, everyone is beating everyone else.
Yeah.
On there, anything can happen, and bring it on, I think.
Nice.
Interesting. I didn't realise how bad our home form actually was. I just sorted the Premier League table by home and away, and our away form puts us 4th, and our home form puts us 13th.
Oh,
so I didn't realise there was such a disparity between home and away until you just mentioned it. So
yeah.
I think before United, I think we won our last 4 away games, which is incredible for us.
Yeah. But now we just need to turn Goodison back into a fortress.
Yeah. We sure do. Now, should we mention a bit of the Fulham game on the weekend?
Yeah.
Can do.
Well, I think we should win. I mean, regardless of who we put out, 11 players on the pitch. I think regardless of who goes in goal, we should be beating Fulham. But they have got some players that can hurt us, and obviously they've got Ademola as well to come back and score his inevitable goal. I think it'd probably be a bit more difficult than what we give credit for. I think Fulham are fighting. They need a result. I also think the game is really important for us and potentially chasing top 4. I think if we don't beat Fulham, I think we can kiss goodbye to top 4, if I'm honest. I don't think it's that dramatic. I think if we keep dropping the silly points, then it becomes very difficult when you think that the games after that are Man City away and Liverpool away. That we need to pick 3 points up, I think. Look, I'm pretty confident going into the game. Tim, what do you think?
Interesting you say, City away and Liverpool away. I mean, Liverpool away is actually looking more promising for us than if we were playing them at home.
But we've been hurt before, Tim. We've been hurt before.
Their home form is
there've been a few
their home
seasons
form
when
is
they've
very
had the
dire and our away form is very good.
worst teams ever, and we still lose. So
yeah, that's true. But in
don't
fairness,
give me
Pat
hope,
Sam was our manager
please.
then. So
They've beaten us with Dominic Solanke up front before. So.
yeah.
So
Anyone
I was just having a
go,
look.
Tim.
I couldn't quite remember the last Fulham game, so I was just having a look while you guys were talking and just looking
Yeah.
at the score. I remember it now. Dom scored like very early, and then they had about 5 minutes of good play, which they scored from early in the second half, and then we came back again and scored 2 more in the second half, and then they brought on Loftus-Cheek, and it was he scored. To make it
He was
2-3.
good. He was good. Yeah.
Very nervy last 20 minutes after that from memory.
Yeah.
And that was obviously at Fulham. So I don't think Fulham's as much as a walkover as, nothing's a cert, especially when you consider that we've dropped points recently against teams like Newcastle. So I don't know. I get what you're saying, Nick. Yeah, ideally, any 11 we put out should be good enough to beat Fulham, but I'm not that confident. So I think, I think players will have to be rested because we've got this cup game, then Fulham a couple of days later, then City a couple of days later.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know which 2 out of those 3 games we need our truly best 11 for. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can win against Fulham. And as you say, if we want to make top 4 or even top 6, we should be winning against teams like that. So yeah, hopefully we can get a win. And in some other good news, I read today that Alan might be back for the Fulham game.
Oh, fantastic.
That'll be a good game for him to come back
midfield.
in and get 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In preparation for the City game, just to get some time under his belt. So yeah, Chris.
So I think Fulham, I don't know if you guys have watched many Fulham games, but they are bang average. And Scott Parker is probably...
You're on brutal form tonight. Like, absolutely no resting.
No holds barred.
I've watched a little bit of football this weekend, and yeah, they are bang average. And Scott Parker's probably
Chris
next.
uncut.
There's no point dilly-dallying around it anymore. I've been off social media all week because I just can't deal with our fans we're basically turning into fans like everybody else, where we criticize everyone for everything, and that's not us, and it's just really annoyed me. But anyway, Fulham aren't that great. Scott Parker could get the sack very, very soon. So, I see it as an opportunity for us to probably play 90 minutes of King, bring ease Allen back in. I don't know whether JPG is anywhere near getting a game, whether it could be a game where he could potentially get 10 minutes off the bench, change up the back 4 to get more minutes into people like Holgate at centre back and Coleman, that sort of thing. So, hopefully we win the cup game. We win the cup game easy, and we can rest some of those key players for a little bit of that match, and then they can play a little bit of a role. But we know City in a week is going to be a really tough game, and then obviously Liverpool coming up. So I don't think we can rest players in those games. They're a lot more important. So surprised to see a few changes. Also coming up, whether it happens or not, there's another international break in a couple of weeks. So realistically, it's pretty much a game every 3 or 4 days now for us, especially if we stay in the cup. And then that international break, 90% of our players go off and play international football. So
that's crazy. That's happening.
Absolutely. So realistically, we're going to there's going to be some squad rotation where you do it. I think Fulham is probably one of the better games to have a crack at. And but I'm confident we get at least a result there. I know everyone's saying that if we don't win, we're falling off the pace for top 4, but realistically, we only have 1 or 2 more hard games against teams above us after that. So the rest of the season, we should be able to pick up the points that we need to. And, your Man Cities have got to play against United again. They've got to play, they're playing Tottenham this weekend. Liverpool's got to play United again. They've got to play Tottenham again. So, realistically, we have a better run of games towards the end of the season than them. So I'm confident that we can keep our roll going and pick up the points we need to along the way later down the track. So I think we win at Fulham and then move on to a tough game against City, who are probably going to steamroll in the championship now and win probably quite easy in my honest opinion.
Well said. Well, with that, everyone, thank you for joining in, and let's hope the lads can get by tomorrow morning and on the weekend, and Come on, you Blues. Come on, guys.
On your Blues.
On your Blues.
Catches.
See ya, boys.
So, yeah.